Hi, everybody. My name is Whitney Jaynes, and I'm the founder of Breaking Chains, the Whitney Project, an organization dedicated to spreading awareness about overdose, addiction, and everything in between. Um, in November of 2018, I lost my sister, Whitney Jaynes, to an overdose during a relapse. She was in a relapse after having a year of recovery. She had relapsed then and then had a year prior. My sister was still a child. And it's hard because we think of a 20-year-old as not a child. We don't see, we see that they're 18, okay, they're an adult. But she did not live an adult life. She had not learned much about herself other than that she had been using drugs since she was 14, and she had been sucked into the life that has killed and destroyed so many others. I don't really know how to explain how it felt when she died because it was very robotic. I felt like I was just not like around. I didn't feel like I was a person. I felt like I just had all these things go on in my life, and I was in survival mode. And my life was not really going really well. The person I was dating was very toxic, severely toxic, not just a little toxic or a little unhealthy. And I did not feel safe to grieve. So when she passed away, I'd already lost my best friend a few days prior, right? I don't want to say my only best friend, but he was one of my closest friends. And I already couldn't grieve that because when he passed, then my sister passed, so I couldn't really grieve his passing. And then there came hers, and I could not get the right support because I was in such a toxic situation. So I did start breaking chains because I knew I was going to leave the relationship I was in that was controlling me, and that was what prompted that, was me trying to put my grief into a project to help people, because that is how I deal with things. I'm a problem solver, at least I try to be. um, and I try to like get rid of the stigma around addiction. We look at people, we decide, oh, they don't look like an addict, oh, they don't look like a recovering addict or a substance abuse user. We decide what people's lives are for them, what recovery looks like for them, and everybody's just different, and that's okay. I definitely believe that we are allowed to have a difference in opinion. And it's hard because I project what happened to me and how I found my recovery my way on other people. And I don't mean to do that if I've ever done it to you. And I kind of did this with my sister, right? So, like, I knew that she was in a bad place. I knew she was dabbling. I knew that her living situation wasn't necessarily conducive to her recovery. And I saw that in her. I saw her mental health going down. I saw her visiting doctors and trying to get scripts, but not. So she was getting drugs off the street. I saw her going back and trying to pull back from this life and go back into it and trying to speak to children and do interventions in order to pull herself back. And we did a documentary prior to this happening. And she was living with her boyfriend, who she loved very, very much. And then I remember, like, I felt like she was doing something wrong because she did this documentary and she'd been struggling. And that was wrong on my part to feel that way. And I had really struggled with calling probation. I knew she was on probation. I knew she really wanted to get off probation. I know that was a huge goal for her. And when she finally got off, which was the day she died, I was proud of her, but I knew she wasn't going to be monitored. I knew nobody was going to be there to hand her a pee cup and say, pee in it. I'm watching you. But here's the thing, in recovery, we have to want it, and we have to kind of sabotage ourselves so that these things don't happen. And I felt like if nobody was around to watch her or to make her, show accountability, she was still a child. She was still unknowing of how to do recovery. Most people don't come into recovery at 18 years old. At 18 years old, we were both slapped in jail, and she was put into a children's facility where she became a big idol for them. She is on their wall. Whitney was a very fun person. She was outgoing. She was awesome. She was laughable. When it came to her family, she had a lot of internal struggles. And because of that, it was really hard to mend with her sometimes, because the only person she trusted to talk about it a lot was me. But at the same time, she resented me because she always felt like she was in my shadow. She found her addiction around the time I did. I was 16. She was 14, maybe 13 when she started using drugs. And her life just continued to spiral down with mine. But I was so obsessed in my problems and so stuck in mine, I didn't realize I was introducing her to this world. I thought I was protecting her in my own sick mind. I thought if we were both using, because originally we were not using together. Then we started using together when it all kind of meshed. I came back from Florida where I was trafficked. I was, drugged, thrown into these programs where they would pay me to relapse and I would end up in another facility. When I came home, I was just broken. I was gone. And my sister picks me up and she says she's doing drugs, right? And I ended up relapsing and we started doing them together. And we kind of used together in the past, but not like this. So when we both went to jail, she did go to jail after me. We were both in there together. And when we were both in there, I remember like her cell was next to mine, and I was hoping like, is she gonna get this? Maybe she'll get this. And I'd missed her so much. And we both came into recovery. And I thought, okay, she's followed me this far. She copied a lot of what I did. She loved me. She looked up to me. At the same time, she hated me. Sometimes we fought a lot. I wasn't always good to her, and I accept that. And there's times where I have survivor's guilt. Like, why did I live? When I see my group of people that I was with during this time, they're all gone. They're all dead from addiction. And I question myself, like, did I lead her to that place? And I know in my heart that it's not my fault. It was her path. And I did continue in my recovery and make a life for myself. Like, I know this, but it is hard sometimes because a lot of the people that I grew close to, whether we were all in addiction or not, I loved and cared about and cherished. So it is one of those things. I got to fix my eyelash here. But she ended up finding recovery. We went to a rave, right? And I know like raves are probably not really conducive for recovery either, but we go to this rave and we had spent this time talking. And we hadn't had a deep talk like that in so long. Like so long. And I was so happy that like she was letting all these things out on me. And I remember she grabbed, and the music was playing, and she reached out and grabbed my hand in the crowd, and we're going through this crowd together, and the music's playing, and it's EDM, and it's awesome. And I felt connected to her for the first time in like a long time. And I don't know, it's weird. It's like we didn't have a good way of showing affection for one another. I don't really hug my mom. My mom used to hug me all the time, and she's lovey-dovey, but like I'm not. So me and my sister, we didn't really hug. I mean, the last time we hugged was during the documentary because they made us hug for the documentary, if that doesn't tell you anything. So, we were close, but we had lost touch. Our addiction was when we were close. So like it was hard because we had a closeness that was really like hard. Like we were always like doing this, right? Coming back together, falling apart, fighting, coming back together for years. And then we went to this rave, had a good time, and I knew something was off. I knew I was going to lose her. I knew that for 6 months prior to her passing away. And I prayed, I thought about it. I was up all night, like some nights, like just like anxiety ridden and scared for her. And I thought about all these ways I could sabotage her using. And I see this in my life now. Leading up to it, I got very paranoid about what she was doing. I was checking her phone. This is something I've done in my relationships. When I think someone's doing something, I check their phone, check their location. Like, these are all like traumatic things that put me in this mode and I can't get out of it. I'm like freaking out thinking, can I save this person? I couldn't save my sister. And I didn't think that in the forefront of my brain when doing this, but I know why now. I have survived because I got lucky. Some of it is good intention. Some of it is survival skills. But I was in Florida, stranded, homeless. Like, I could have died at any time. And look, my sister wasn't really smart when it came to using, but she had so much mental health going on. I don't think she cared. Like, sometimes I think she just wanted it to stop. And I have mental health too. I have anxiety. I have depression. I have days where I don't want to get out of bed. I have days where my brain needs to shut off. Like at night, I'm sitting there and I'm going nuts and I'm codependent, right? And like, I get this like anxiety in me of not wanting to like be alone in it. And it's not all the time. And I can handle myself on my own a lot. And I do love who I am. But there are moments when it pops in. And if that was my brain all the time, I don't know if I could function because I have learned to cope. I have learned to survive at whatever cost. And sometimes it gets old. It gets old to be strong. It gets old to be the one that makes it. It gets old. You start to think, why me? Why is it got to be me? Why can't this person get it with me? Why can't this person get it with me? Why can't everybody's recovery go like this? And you start to feel that way even though you know better. So when my sister passed away, it was really detrimental to me. People said I didn't grieve right. Like, people acted like I was some robot with no emotion. And I do talk about her. I post about her. I am honest about how she passed away because she had relapsed or dabbling. And then the day that she passed away, She decided to go to Buffalo and pick up drugs, knowing that she had just gotten off probation and a judge had given her a second chance at life. She looked at the judge and said, "Thank you for saving my life." She wanted to save her own life, and that is why she projected that on him. I don't think she was planning to stop herself, but she couldn't. And she felt like she just wasn't going to win. When she used, I personally believe she was angry. She was mad. She was upset over something. And she used alone, knowing she shouldn't have, because apparently she had OD'd in the week and been Narcan. I did not know this at the time. And she thought, oh, well, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't think she meant it, and she decided to use alone, get attention, whatever. And she used. And she's like, I'm gone. That was it. And that's the thing. We don't go into using expecting to die. Some of us don't really want to live, but we don't want to die. Like, I never felt like I wanted to go. I always felt like I had more of a purpose to life. And when I started using, I feel like I had lost my purpose, and that was really hard on me. I didn't know who I was anymore. So if you're listening to this, please think about Whitney. She's still here with us.